Hello Ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games with a Rust information video. 2019 is already underway, of course. We're nearly at the end of January, so what is the status of Rust? I've done these videos in the past over the last few years, giving you as much information as possible when it was relevant. Last year we were teased with Rust being put on the development board for Xbox One and PS4 as active development. It got removed though a few months later. Why was that? What is the situation with Rust right now? And why do I think the latest little tiny bit of information given by the devs means it's coming to console soon? Nothing can ever be concrete in Rust information, as developers really are these kind of people that just go about their business and don't really like to build up too much hype. But they are in the business of making video games and getting fans to come and buy and play their games. So let's take a look at all the information. So Facepunch Studios, developers behind Rust, put on their blogspot for their company. They were celebrating their 5-year Rust anniversary on Steam, and also the end of 2018 and what the future held for Rust. To cut a long story short, they have said they're working on something pretty big for 2019. It's a secret reveal at the moment, but it does have something to do with Rust. In this blog post they detail the history of Rust, how they came and nearly abandoned it and how they wanted to rewrite it so they could get it better, and they took the decision to basically make the game up from scratch in 2014, and basically how it's gone from strength to strength and is pretty much one of the best PvP focused survival games out there. Now the sentence really isn't much just on its own, but when I'm about to give you the rest of the information, I really firmly do believe we're going to get an announcement about Rust on Xbox and PS4 very soon. And in terms of concrete information, it's the closest, or basically the most concrete bit of info we've had in over 5 or 6 months. So let's start delving into some of the other reasons why I do believe they're going to hear announcements soon, and why it will be a completed game ready for PS4 and Xbox One at exactly the same time. So Rust is still very much a popular game. In fact, it's just had its most popular period in its 5-year lifetime. That's after 5 years of active development and being around in early access, it still had its most popular month being December and January. But let's go back a little bit earlier. February 2018, Rust finally left early access, and that wasn't the end though. Developers promising they would keep content updates coming, adding new features, culminating in the big update that added electricity, hence why Rust is so popular again at the moment. Over that time it's had some lows, but increasingly from year 2015 onwards it has gone higher and higher and higher with monthly player counts, updates and content. Not many games achieve this. Often in early access over the last few years we've seen big games come and go, initially starting out well and then losing their player bases, but Rust bucked that trend. In fact, Rust is the template on how to keep your players happy on big online games. Delivering content pretty much every month, focusing on bug fixes as well as brand new content, Rust has dramatically changed from when it first started out. It hasn't always been an easy ride, and there has definitely been lots of controversies along the way if you followed and played Rust all that time. But there's no doubt about it right now, Rust is one of the premium PvP focused games you can buy. If you're looking for an online survival game that focuses on taking on other players, then Rust simply is the best. And that is proven time and time again by the player counts and the actual reviews. So of course we want this on console, and believe it or not, this was teased much more than just a couple years ago. In fact, it was 2014 that we were first talking about it possibly appearing on the PS4 in a beta. At last, the new PS4, the Xbox One, might have the power to run some of these games that usually took a lot out of the systems. But Facepunch, the developers behind Rust, aren't just your usual developer. They don't necessarily have as many setting goals or targets to hit as you would suppose a games company might have. That's why it took so long for Rust to come out of early access, and they have even stated it's not technically, in their opinion, finished. So for a long while Rust was on the roadmap, and this roadmap has been updated and changed over the years, explicitly stating for console. You can see all the features that have been put into the game and have been improved, and stuff they're still currently working on. Upcoming is going to be multiple islands, as well as some sort of prestige idea where you can actually wipe your own character in return for getting something permanently good for yourself. There's also talk more about vehicles coming. As you can see, the future is pretty bright for Rust. But this roadmap has since last summer removed the console versions from it. For a good long while it did have it, and I covered it with a video last year explaining exactly what's going on. The developers Facepunch also stated that they wanted to get the early access launch out of the way before they even considered console, Xbox or PS4 development. Now there has been some talk of Double 11 being the guys that are porting over Rust for Xbox One and PS4. This is kind of good and maybe a little bit worrying. Double 11 have done some great jobs with some indie games, but they've always been quite smaller games. This would be the biggest project that I've undertaken for sure. On the flip side of that though, they are really good at what they do. Generally the games they have ported over have had minimal bugs. They've done a lot of work to optimizations as well, considering they've worked a lot on mobile games as well. So I feel pretty confident and I'm quite happy they're the guys doing it, but like I said, it will be the biggest project they've ever done. So if we go over some more information, in an interview with Gary Newman, the curator of Rust and Gary's Mod, he expressed that they want to get Rust out of early access. This was in 2017, hire more self-starter game developers, have them make games with minimal input from me and release a game on a console. So it's always been in their minds, hence why it was such a surprise that they took it off. Now there is some reasoning behind this. If they have it available, public information, what they're doing, it can sometimes affect any share prices if they want any further investment. If they're self-funded even, they still may want to try and barter some privileges out of who they're going to actually produce their game for. Is it going to be Microsoft? Is it going to be Sony? By taking that information that's publicly available off, they've got more chance of getting a good deal for themselves. Make no doubt about it, if Rust comes to Xbox One and PS4, it will be the biggest game of the year in that genre, and it could well do just as many sales as Ark Survival Evolved did. That game has sold nearly 6 million copies across Xbox and the PS4. Right now on Steam, and for the longest of time, Rust has on a daily been beating Ark's average player count. Now I know they're quite different games, one is very PvP focused and obviously the other one's got loads of bugs and dinosaurs, but I still think it holds up. It shows that these games are really popular, and the fact that Ark just took off on console and helped make that game bigger than it was, I think Rust could have the same effect. So it makes sense that they want to see who's going to offer them the most money, or if in fact they can get a deal where they won't need to do that. They won't need to go in early access for Xbox or have any sort of exclusivity with PS4. They're probably strong enough, they've made enough money, they can actually publish their game on their terms. And that would even increase their money even more. If they could produce this game on Xbox One and PS4 exactly the same time, it would absolutely dominate YouTube again, just like it used to back in the day. The other thing to consider is the devs, as I've said, take things at their own pace. They don't really have this idea of goal setting as much as other studios might have. So the idea for them to put something in early access on Xbox might not necessarily be the case. I generally think they've been working with Double Fine to make sure the game is ready for 1.0 release. I don't think they're going to bother with an early access program for Xbox or be in some sort of private beta for PS4. A lot of the times if it's on early access on Xbox, there is still some sort of exclusivity deal with them where they can't produce it on the console for a limited period of time. They won't want that. They want to make maybe as much of an impact as they can, and so by launching on both systems at exactly the same time, you get that impact. And I think that's the best thing for development. As I've said, console is very different from PC, and maybe we would need a little bit of time to see how many bugs and issues there are. But since Rust, although it's not perfect on PC, is out of early access, it has been out of early access nearly a year, I'd be pretty confident that whatever port job they've done has got rid of a lot of the bugs and a lot of the problems and issues. Facepunch Studios are a very small studio, they're really closely knit. They've got a bunch of other projects in the works as well, but I'm going to explain why I don't think it's any of them that this announcement means. They obviously still do work for Gary's Mod occasionally, and they've got other projects currently working on. Now some of these projects are going to be closer to maybe beta testing and release than we think, whereas a bunch of other projects have never seen the light of day. In fact, Facepunch Studios have cancelled around 4 times the amount of games they've actually released because the prototypes didn't work out, or they just weren't really offering something new to whatever genre they were aiming for. So we've always got to be a bit skeptical when talking about Face Punch and the notion of these brand new games coming. However, I firmly really do believe with all the stuff that's been going on with Rust, the lack of communication over the last 8 months, I think we're going to see a big announcement soon. There has also been some clatter or chatter saying that they won't actually bother with this generation as the PS5 is going to be announced soon and they'll just simply go over to that. Again, I don't think that's necessarily true either. The PS5 is still a long way off. Anyone expecting that to come out in this year, I think they're going to be very disappointed. I can't see the PS5 coming out until at least 2021. Also, one more factor to consider why it's taken so long is the engine they use. For Rust they used Unity. Now Unity has undergone some serious changes in the last 18 months. It's upgraded itself and this has caused a big of an issue for lots of developers updating their online games. 7 Days to Die is probably the most famous case where they had to spend a lot of time rejigging and redoing, but also taking advantage of the technical advances they made with Unity. This was one of the reasons stated why 7 Days to Die latest update took so long to come out and why Xbox and PS4 have been waiting so long for their update, because they're waiting for the console versions to be able to be upgraded to Unity. Rust has faced a similar issue. Now that was last summer where most of that got stabilised, in fact a little bit earlier, so I again wouldn't surprise me if they've been working on that on the console versions, hence why there's such a big delay from early access of PC and on the actual platforms of Xbox and PS4. We've had a taste of survival games like Ark and Conan Exiles, and we've now got other games coming around like The Forest and hopefully soon Stranded Deep, but none of them really match Rust's PvP nature. A lot gets taken out of context with Rust. Lots of people accuse it of having a toxic atmosphere or toxic community base. Well, it's true, they do have a toxic community base, but that's just the nature of the game. Underneath it all though is a fantastic experience. I love Rust. I've not played much, but that's why I'm desperate for it to come to console, because that's where I feel at home most while playing these type of games. Now some of this is just my own thinking, I can't always back it up 100% other than just showing you what I have already shown you, but what we do definitely know is this. It has been on the console development board, it was on the Rust roadmap. The developers have stated they want to see Rust on console, and there's a big announcement coming for Rust explicitly. That blog post was about Rust, it wasn't about any other game, it wasn't about any new announcement. Updates to Rust have always kind of been labelled early in advance. People knew what was coming with Rust because they could look at the roadmap, hence why I don't think it's anything to do with a Rust expansion or something brand new just for the base game. I really do think it's going to be the console news. So there we go, that's everything I know about console version of Rust on Xbox One and the PS4. I really do hope we see it come, guys. I'm not going to be rinsing this out all the time, I won't be doing updates unless we get some more solid information, but I think that's a good way to kick off 2019 with everything that's gone before and everything we know about Rust coming hopefully one day to console. I am Jade Plays Games. If this video has helped you out, if you want to keep up to date with early access information about survival games, sandbox games and other smaller indie games, make sure you subscribe, you've got notifications turned on, and I'll see you for more information very soon. Laters!